So, welcome everyone to today's session. We all love to want to convert leads fast. We just want to get a lead in, convert it, be done. Then we can go surf, we can go spend time with family. We just want to get our leads converted fast. So today we're going to have a conversation around what strategies and systems and processes and things can we use in our own situations to be able to convert those leads fast, so we can go and enjoy the fun things in life. And today we've got a special guest, Natasha Walstra. Natasha, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'll just go a bit of a background into what we want to get out of today, and that is we want to have Natasha share her expertise around social media, what her social media generation is like, her content strategy, and the prospecting and opportunities that Natasha is taking advantage of and making it her own and helping others at the same time. So Natasha, can you give us a little bit of background into, do you want to give us a bit of background into your business around lead generation, or what it is that you're doing?
Sure, yeah, I appreciate that. I have to take you back a little bit farther to before my business started, just because it all connects into how I got to what I'm doing today.
Awesome.
But for me, it really did start after I landed my first sales job as an SDR, which is a sales development representative, right? Where I had to cold call, smile and dial 100 dials a day. There was literally a mirror in front of my desk but I had to smile while I called. It was brutal. And honestly, I was terrible at it as well. It was really challenging for me to do, but I'm really competitive. And so I'm like, well, how do I hit my numbers but not cry every day? And so I discovered using LinkedIn as a way to connect and network, and then warm call. And it turned out people were way more receptive to that. Who knew? Like, building relationships was the way to go. So that was about 10 years ago. And since then, I didn't know I was doing it and during the time, but I unintentionally built a personal brand as I was sharing content and leveraging, credibility by association and posting things that our clients and partners were up to and everything. And over the years, just actually built my name around this, and then realized that most people don't know how to do this, especially as it comes from an individual versus, creating content from a brand and doing corporate marketing. This was much more challenging for people. And so that connection with personal branding and business development, I started to put together and created the system that I now teach business owners and other sales professionals how to do, specifically on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's one of those things about we can get caught up in the social media posting and like all that the digital life, what we see, and I guess, yeah, a lot of things that we see, we think that we can do it, and it's not through a lot of trial and error, practice, review, and I guess trying to work out where I'm going with that question there, but yeah, we can get wound up in the whole digital space, and it's important to keep the personal relationships and business relationships going. So can you share a little bit about how you're taking a lead? How do you take a lead from, say, LinkedIn and create that warm opportunity to then take it into potentially doing business together?
Sure. Well, we're all sick of being pitched to on LinkedIn, right? I don't know if you've heard this term of being pitch slapped, where you connect with them and then they go straight into the DMs and pitch you right away before they build any sort of connection with you, right? It's gotten like pitch overload on LinkedIn. And so it is a little bit of a long game. I know we were talking about like getting leads and moving them through faster, which in the grand scheme of things, that is what ends up happening because you're building trust over time. So this is definitely a long game, but what you need to do is actually like build that connection first, right? So find ways to be curious about the person, make sure that you solve the problem they actually have, and find ways to connect with them before you pitch them anything, right? Like, you haven't earned the right to help pitch them something. And so it's really about forming those connections. And so how can you do that, right? Well, it's maybe seeing if they're posting content on social media, engaging with that and asking questions, starting conversations in the comment section, right? At the same time, a lot of people aren't active on LinkedIn still. And so maybe their company is posting, and so engaging with them or finding someone else within the organization. But there are ways to connect with them, right? And build that relationship. And, maybe it's off of social media, and they were, I always loved using Google Alerts as a way to track people, and that if any time they are featured anywhere in the news and the media, you get a notification about it, and then you can reach out to them with like hey, congrats, I saw you were in this article, really interesting around this, right? Like, finding ways to connect with them that like shows you actually are interested in them, right? Whereas instead of, we're so used to the mass automation and, spray and pray methods that we're so sick of. In this case, like, you're really being curious. I think that really differentiates you from 99% of other people out there.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, I just had a message before saying here's an article I've written, but I'm like, well, like what's the actual what's going to make me like actually open it and read it and connect, and how does that even like relate to me? Why should I actually open it?
Well, and that's a great point, actually, because customization is great, or personalization is great, but it has to be relevant also. It's not like, okay, cool, you're at that, and then you tie it to something that makes no sense at all. It's like I keep getting those types of DMs now. I'm like, what is that's almost lazier than if you hadn't done anything at all.
Yeah. And it's even like for begin, like, and you begin that. Well, I mean, going through it, you just you throw stuff out to people, like, and you probably do it in the early days just to try and work it, try and get your own system. Or if you haven't been taught how to do it, you just, if you go in. So I remember going straight from corporate and then direct, because you just go and talk to someone, like work would just come to you. And then you go and talk to someone because you've already got that's something relatable to talk to them and help them with. But then when you go straight out into business and you just drop them, hey, I've got this. Why are they not connecting with me? It's so just important to build those relationships, and how can you make it relatable to the people. So I guess coming into that whole like beginner stage, for anyone coming in, like maybe beginning the journey into their LinkedIn lead generation, do you have any for quick results? Do you have any steps or suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of various things that I think, especially in like the sales world, I noticed this so much with like the AEs and sales professionals I work with, where they're so focused on the behind the scenes conversations or pitching, let's say prospecting, but they forget about the fact that it's also about like the content and putting content out there. That connection between content and conversation really makes a huge difference. And so, you want to be showcasing your expertise and that you are solving a problem that they have, right? So it all really does start with your profile. And I think people put that on the back burner so easily. Like, they're just trying to prospect and get their deals in and that sort of thing. But they forget, like, does my profile actually represent what I'm trying to represent, right? Like, is it clear who I serve, how I serve them? Is there social proof on here, right? Are there things on here that's going to make them want to talk to me, right? Because I had this happen actually the other day, where somebody booked a call with me directly, and typically there's normally some conversation that happens before they book a call. In this case, they just booked it, and then I looked at his profile. I was like, oh, this guy's totally just going to pitch me something. Like, this isn't a sales call for me. It's more him trying to sell me something. So I messaged the guy. I was about to cancel it, and I was like, hey, is this a sales call? He's like, no, I'm curious about your services. And I was like, oh, oops, like, great, cool, I'm looking forward to speaking with you. But it was because it was so dry, and it was that very like professional, stuffy corporate vibe that had no personality to it, that I was like, there's no way this guy is interested in what I have here. Like, he's trying to pitch me something, you know? And so I think that's a huge miss for people. It's like, you want to be proud of your profile and set that foundation very clearly, because people are going back and looking at it and seeing what you offer and what you're doing, right? And it should represent you, that and something that you again are proud of, because I think people just totally forget about that. Like, we're so obviously like look at other people's, but then we forget about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So as like a quick fix, like, is it really representing who I am today?
Yeah, it's so true that we yeah, again, just what we see, what we see, and it's good to be curious about that too, because you want to save both your time and their time in are we doing business here? What is it we want to get out of that call? And so how for that connection, how did they come straight from like seeing or posting on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Yeah, that one
Yes.
specifically, they saw a comment of mine on someone else's post. So there was a mutual connection, like, because this guy was actually a second degree connection. We weren't even connected ourselves, but I had commented on someone else's post, and then he saw that and then looked at mine.
So it's more like
And it's crazy. I
engagement.
love how these, yeah, and that's the thing, that this type of magic happens all the time on LinkedIn, where like those first, second, third degree connect. It's because it's not just about your own network; it's about your network's network as well, right? And so by engaging and putting your thought leadership out there, not just through content but through commenting and that sort of thing, you never know who it's going to get in front of.
And that's the beauty and the power of it too. And sometimes we think that it's always our first connections that we've connected to them, and you've got all these great like thousands of connections, but they're probably not your buyers. It's down the line, the ones that can maybe introduce you, or it's just in their networks of networks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something I always have to keep in mind too, because even, my ideal clients aren't active on LinkedIn. That's the whole problem, right? And so most of them are lurking. They're seeing, but they're not liking or commenting on any of my stuff. But eventually, like, we end up, behind the scenes. That's why it's so important to get into the DMs and such. But I mean, I was cracking up the other day because a client of mine, she's like, "Hey, when are we going to learn that thing you wrote about on your post yesterday?" And I was like, "You saw that?" I was like, even my own clients are lurking. She didn't even comment on it. It's the funniest thing. I'm like, it's because most people, right? There's a billion users on LinkedIn. Only 1% of folks are actually creating any original content, and then about 10% are like very much active on there. But there's 57% of those are lurking. They're watching, but they're never going to like or comment on any of your things.
Had that exact thing happen yesterday. Of course, saw someone I haven't seen in a long time. Oh, I've been watching all your stuff on LinkedIn. You've never engaged, you've never liked it or anything like that. But it's fine because you never know where it's going to come from, and just hearing that. But it's still that personal relationship, or or the human connection still. So yeah, I see you put stuff out there. That's yeah, it's awesome. Let's connect. Let's reconnect. Let's go
Yeah.
have a coffee.
Yeah, I had the same thing today. Someone from my former life, when I worked in 3D printing world, which is where I really took on this idea of personal branding again. Didn't realize I was doing that, but he was an engineer there, and he reached out. He's like, "Hey, I've been seeing all your life events because you have to find that blend of professional and personal." So I've shared a couple of things that's been going on. He's like, "Hey, I'm actually looking to start my consulting gig. Like, I think I'd love to chat with you if that's okay." And it's the crazy thing because I never would have known. I haven't talked to the guy in 8 years, right? And he just reached out, but has been seeing all those things, right? And so they like are getting to know you from afar. It's really quite cool.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I was going to throw. Has anyone got any questions for Natasha at the moment? I'll just throw it to anyone in the audience here. Chinmay, you've just joined us. Welcome, welcome. Tracy's got one here. Do you re-educate the DM spam, or do you just move on? So is that Tracy?
Good question.
When someone like reaches out, like a cold reach out, do you just so what you want to educate the teach them something about their message?
And what they should be doing instead.
Yeah, basically. I've had a few of those.
Yeah, I've definitely like asked, like, has that worked for you before? You know, like out of curiosity, because it's quite surprising. I think when I don't normally respond to those or re-educate necessarily, but I will say something when another LinkedIn strategist or personal branding person reaches out to me asking if I want help with my LinkedIn. And I'm like, did you read my LinkedIn or like anything about me? You know, like come on here. And like otherwise like I'm just gonna like ignore it honestly. But in that case, I can't help but say something. You know, especially now with like AI taking over and like automated messages we've had on there for a long time, but AI especially, it's like I just don't understand it because there are things you can definitely outsource. Content creation, if you needed, you know, somebody can interview you and get the content from, like there's ways of doing that. There's even ways for growing your network, but I can't build relationships for you. Neither can AI, neither can your VA. Like only you can build relationships. And so I just don't understand those that are shortcutting that because you can't, you know.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about AI being a tool, right? It's a tool. Like
Totally.
It's got its place, but it can never replace the human interactions and the human connections, which is so important in this day and age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I use AI all the time, but as like my assistant, you know, in a way to better, because I'm not a writer. That's why it's always, I struggle with imposter syndrome quite often, even to thinking like, technically I'm a content creator, but it's the weirdest thing because I'm still traumatized from my 12th grade English teacher who told me I was terrible at writing, right? So the thought that I think of myself as a writer, like that just doesn't cross my mind, but I've found ways to leverage AI in a way that makes me look a lot better than I actually am with writing. And then I look back to when I posted content before that, and it was pretty cringe, but I still did it, but it just wasn't quite as good.
AI puts in some nice big words for you.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of content creation, how often is there a strategy around how often people should post? Because you hear the things of post every day, every hour, you're going to post. What are some things that have worked for you, Natasha, in terms of how regular we should post content?
That's a really great question because I think there are best practices, sure, but for me, what I would rather see you do is if you can only commit to twice a week, but twice a week consistently, do that versus posting every day and then burning out after 2 months, right? Like that's far less effective if you just like go all in, but then realize it's not like it's just too much, you burn out, you're not getting the results, and then you leave and then you disappear and give up, right? Like I see that happen all the time. Whereas I'd rather you post once or twice a week, right? And then just do that consistently. Yeah, exactly. Quality over quantity. It's so important. I mean, I remember like at some point I tried posting 7 days a week, and then I realized like my audience doesn't need to hear from me 7 days a week. Right. I've got a 5-month-old now who's got explosive gas in the nighttime. So like some mornings don't make it. And so it's a rough night. And so like last week I only posted 3 times a week. Right. Like I think you need to figure out what works best for your lifestyle that you're going to be able to consistently do. And that's the best way of doing it.
And that leads into, I guess, is there any metrics like with that? So posting consistently, do you look at any metrics to gauge how those posts have gone or any traction?
I'm probably the crazy considering I have built my whole business around LinkedIn, but I really try not to pay attention to the vanity metrics, I like to call them, because I think they're a lot of fluff, and the algorithm, once you try and figure it out, it's going to change again, and people are always going to go crazy around that, especially because it is constantly evolving and we just never know what's what. And so for me, what I really like to focus on is the quality of conversations I'm having behind the scenes. So even though, again, I built my business on LinkedIn, like the purpose of me being on LinkedIn is to get off of LinkedIn and build relationships. That's where real magic happens. And so if I'm creating content that leads to good conversation, then that's a win for me.
And it's through the conversations that's where people are going to learn the most and how you can help each other. In business.
And it works as well where you have a conversation with someone or you meet them at a networking event or someone refers them and then they go to your profile and they see your content, they're still getting to know you and learn from you that way. And that's still kind of, it continues the conversation, if you will. And I think that is why, again, consistency is so important about it. But I think if you were to get so caught up in the likes and the impressions and all that, like, you're just going to go crazy.
Yeah. And I want to shy away a little bit from LinkedIn itself, but more in the branding side of things. How do you differentiate yourself in your personal branding? So you've got LinkedIn there, but how do you keep it authentically you?
That's a really good question as well. I think going back to this idea of like, you want to feel proud of what it is that you're putting out. And so like, does it represent you as a person, right? Because I think, what LinkedIn is or your personal brand is, especially in the digital world, right? It's an extension of who you are in real life. And so you want to be able to find, how you interact with people at networking events, at conferences. Let's find the digital version of that, and which is your personal brand, right? And so it has to reflect who you are as a human, right? As a person. And the more humanity that you put into it, the more you showcase your personality. Obviously, it's not Facebook, and we don't want to be, everyone's like, oh, that's not Facebook anymore. And I think there's a fine line between oversharing, of course, but you don't, when you think about you're going to a networking event, you're not just going to go up to somebody and pitch them right away, right? Like, you're going to find some common threads. You're going to find some areas that you can connect over first before you dive into anything business, even if you even get to that point, right? And also remembering too, like, your network, it's not like you're pitching to your network all the time. These are your colleagues now, and so they're speaking on behalf of you and in their network as well. And so really, like, it should just be a genuine reflection of who you are in real life. Find out how to create that equivalent version for your personal brand in the digital world.
And that's important for having these conversations and keep it authentic in, because I think sometimes we see, I know I do, sometimes we see things on LinkedIn and things are like, wow, that looks really good and really great. And then, you connect with these people and they've got the same problems, the same issues, the same everything. But then it's having that conversation, you go, right, it brings it back down to reality.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also a lot of fluff on LinkedIn these days too, and people embellishing, let's say. And so I think you need to avoid looking and getting just caught up in that stuff and trying to compare yourself to people who are putting this out there, because most of what you see, I feel like a lot of it may not be true and authentic. And so it's really remembering to stay true to who you are and to your values, and that you're real, right? Like, you want to be representing yourself in a way that is the true, genuine self, right? I think it's just too much energy to be somebody else on there. And I think it's the strangest thing, like, that, we are the first generation to be using LinkedIn or social media in this way for business. Like, before, it was much more in person. Like, now a lot of us aren't even going into offices anymore. And so we've kind of putting on these different fronts. And it's like, no, like, just think about LinkedIn as your office, right? Is this never-ending borderless conference where, like, I'm here able to join you guys from South Carolina right now, right? Like, this is super cool, and this is a great way to build and grow your network globally. But you can't do that if you're false, right? If you're somebody who you aren't. Like, it just, these opportunities won't end up coming to you at all.
And so to be able to have these conversations and connect on such have a global connection to people, and just hearing different. Some things will sound similar, but it's also hearing other people's experiences, and also what's happening in different industries and different companies, organizations. It's nice to be able to learn from different environments what people are doing, and then how can we turn into and how can we use that in our own business or our own personal life. But with your, want to ask, with your strategies and your teachings, do you adapt your systems to the different industries?
There's a lot of pattern matching that happens, but for the most part, I mean, I was thinking about it today of who I work with, and I've got, a CTO at a top tech company. I've got a bookkeeper. I've got a divorce lawyer, an M&A advisor. I've got, coaches, consultants, like the most random group of folks that I'm working with individually, right? And it's industry agnostic to like who can do well with the system, basically, because it's all relatively the same. It's about, again, showcasing your expertise in a way that not only do people want to work with you, they also want to refer you as well, right? Like this works across the board. It's about expanding your network, your referrals, your word of mouth, and just putting that into the digital world. And so honestly, like the system is pretty much the same for all of the folks that I work with. Your goals are different, and that will change kind of how you show up on LinkedIn, like what type of activity you want to be focusing on. In some cases, more people are more focused on like getting leads tomorrow and need, higher volume clients. And so that's where they're focusing on, where some are more like brand awareness and thought leadership. So for them, it's more about content. So in that case, like what your goals are will determine how I change up the system. But for the most part, it's really about, your personal brand, content, and conversations, social selling.
You mentioned there pattern. Was it pattern matching?
Yeah.
Pattern matching. Can you maybe are you able to expand on that a little bit? How what do you mean by pattern matching?
Sure. So everyone, the clients that I have, so there's the same type of people they're going to be wanting to connect with or engage with, right? So you want to be following your industry experts, industry adjacent experts, other thought leaders. You want to be finding referral partnerships, right? So it's really just figuring out like those main categories of, and specifically in this case, of who they want to be growing their network with, and then doing that same thing in just a different industry, right? So it's really just finding those types of things, like where it actually is pretty much, again, the same. You just figure out what the equivalent is for that industry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. And so you'll apply that to your content strategy, what you post on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be industry specific to where you are. Like I have some CPG and multi-million-dollar jewelry e-commerce founder I'm working with, right? And which she's not even selling her products on LinkedIn. It's about, for her, it's thought leadership and brand awareness, right? So for her, it's going to be different than what the CTO at a tech company is going to be putting out there, but it's their version of it for each industry. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to make sure Tracy's got some comments here. Make sure your values shine through. Make sure your values shine through. So I just want to, does anyone else have any questions? Just open up to the floor again. Does anyone have any questions for Natasha? Not at the moment, just happy to listen in. Oh, Chinmay?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Andrew. Very good questions. Thanks, Natasha, for responding very well. When adding up on Andrew's question, would you think the frequency of post should different in socials compared to LinkedIn? Let's say when you say twice in a week, would that be more frequent or less frequent in Facebook or Instagram? Or would you keep the same, or what would you suggest? Another question is, I know some people, they are just suggesting to stay in people's eye. There are some leaders or company owners. They are suggesting the team to just go to ChatGPT, just ask a random question and dump it into the socials, just to stay in the market. Just do that every day. If you can't think of anything, just at least keep doing on a regular basis, and it will make the wonder. So 2 questions, and what are your thoughts on it?
Sure. Yeah. for the first one, I think, Facebook and Instagram are quite different than how LinkedIn works. I think it's okay to be posting multiple times a day, even on there. Like, I think it is more normal to be at least once a day. Then they've got stories and all the different areas about it. So I don't use those platforms very much. For me, I create for LinkedIn, which is very much like thought leadership expertise content, which does well on Meta. And so I just repurpose it for those platforms. But I have enough clients on LinkedIn that need my help that for me, it's not worth going on to another platform. So I think what makes the most sense for you is trying to figure out where is your audience living? Are they more on Meta than LinkedIn, or are they more on Twitter or X, right? If they're on those platforms more, maybe it makes sense to be spending more time there versus trying to get all over the place, right? But if you create content with LinkedIn in mind, it's interesting that it does actually work well. It translates well to post those on the other platforms, but the reverse isn't true. So if you're creating for Instagram or Facebook and you try and put that on LinkedIn, it's not going to do as well. So if going kind of into your second question there of like not having enough ideas or trying to create too much content, all that stuff, like, and I forgot if it was Tracy who said that earlier of like quality over quantity, like I would start to think about how can you put out really good quality for LinkedIn that you can then repurpose on the other platforms if you want. I wouldn't try to just throw in ChatGPT and put content out to put content out, because that's actually going to hurt your brand more, I think, especially because it's not your original thought, right? Like anybody can do that. And so you're just going to stand out in the sea of sameness out there. Gosh, even just saying the sea of sameness, I hate that because ChatGPT uses that all the time. And now whenever I see them, like, oh, they totally use ChatGPT on it. So like it's really obvious when it's not original, right? And so again, using AI, the way I take it is I put my thought originally down and then I have it help me expand on it, let's say, but I never do the reverse, right? Or I have it help ideate and such, but I'm not going to have it just create a post for me because anybody else could have posted it then.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris.
I like the.
Can I just say something?
Sorry,
on the whole
Yep.
AI ChatGPT thing. You need to train it, Chimney, on exactly who you are and how you write and what you do things. Okay, so don't just pop shit in because you'll get shit out.
Yep.
It's called crap GPT for a reason, because people don't know how to use it properly. And there's many other AI tools out there that you can train really, really well on who you are or who your clients are and how they write and how they do everything, and that can actually produce really good content. So there's not one bit of content on my LinkedIn that is actually human written. It's all AI, but not one person would know, because it's trained properly. So I just had to say that because you see it all the time on LinkedIn. Somebody will just pop something on there for the sake of it. It's come from ChatGPT because it's used all the buzzwords, and it ruins your brand big time.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and the rocket ships and the Dells, yeah, totally.
Oh my God.
No, and obviously if you're putting into and training it though, like you're saying, and creating projects and creating custom GPTs where it knows your voice, your tone, like that's a very different ballgame. But if you're just like going in and asking it to create content, it's not gonna, what you said, crap in, crap out, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like what Scotty uses, going like the extra mile. So what extra mile can you do? So even with that content, how can you turn it into you? Like what extra can you do to make your content stand out? All right, and that's going to be you. So whether you're using AI or whatever, you still got to, what's the extra effort that you're putting in to get your message out there and attract your audience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why I love with my clients what I do. I do these recorded sessions with them where I ask close to 20, 30 questions, and then from that transcript, I'm able to pull three posts per response because I'm finding different ways to say the same thing using different frameworks. So in one session, I'm able to create 60, 70 posts for them that are all unique, but it's their original voice and tone and their thought leadership to start with that I just then transform and say it in different ways for them. So it's really quite amazing what you can do with it now. So I'm all for it. I love AI. Don't get me wrong. Claude for me is the one I use though for posting. Actually, it seems to catch my tone better than ChatGPT does. Just FYI, if you haven't tried Claude, you should.
Yeah.
Sorry,
totally
what's
agree
it
with
called?
Natasha.
Claude.ai. Yeah, it's
Claude.
amazing.
Yeah,
CLAUDE.
Yeah,
CLAUDE.ai.
it does a much better of capturing tone and voice and remembering it. I feel like I was getting very angry with ChatGPT for a while because it just wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
I've never been so mad at an AI system before, a computer. It was the craziest thing.
Is that where you're still recording it? So it's still your thoughts. You're recording it and then having it. So you'll say something, you have to record it, and then you'll get that transcript later to be able to then repurpose the content. Is that still what you're using it for? So it's still coming from you.
Still you.
The
Yeah,
word
you
I
can
wrote
actually,
down
if you
earlier.
have the, sorry, Scotty.
That's right, go.
I was going to say, if you have the app on Claude, then you can actually voice it straight in, and it will actually create a post out of what you've just said. It's really good like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, the word I wrote down earlier when I heard through all the talk was the word genuine. So regardless of whether you use an AI tool or however you do it, it's about that genuine content. And if you use a spell checker on it or a romancer on it, like an AI tool, so be it. But it's about that genuine content that's genuinely yours. And then you have the genuine connection and the genuine conversation with people that follows through. And that's the brand, that's the genuine brand. Regardless of how you use the tool, you can share someone else's content for all that matters, because someone else has done something really good. You go, hey, look at this. This is really awesome. It's not even your content, but it's that genuine waving your flag about my brand and who I am and what I believe in and what I think's good. And that's your brand, right? But it's that genuine, if I use that word, conversation and branding that you put out in the world that matters. If you use an AI tool to help romance it, so be it. I use AI to do spell check all the time, because if I didn't, my stuff would be really terrible.
Mine too, Scotty.
In fact, I like putting mistakes in my post because then it looks genuine.
Yeah, I know. I do the same sometimes. I won't correct it sometimes. I'm like, at least you know it's me now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, one of the chapters I write in the book is about deliberate mistakes.
Mm.
You know.
So you can build that into your AI, deliberate mistakes.
Put some deliberate mistakes in there.
That's funny. I used to do that with sales calls before. I don't know if pretend is the right word. I like took advantage of the fact that I didn't know more, and so I would have we'd have to have a second call with the subject matter expert or the AE, the next person, because I wasn't able to answer some of the questions, but I could have. But I'm like, we need to get the expert on, so let's move this along and do it. So it's kind of the same idea almost of like I didn't make mistakes, but I held back on some of my own expertise on certain things so that we can continue conversations, if that makes sense.
I do have a question though. One of the things I see most that people struggle with is actually getting paid. So they build up their brand and they learn to put out content and they can have conversations. I know some of the people you're dealing with have a successful business, Natasha, and you're helping them with the brand and obviously building up their own brand themselves within the organization or the business they're in. But a lot of people struggle with actually getting paid. In other words, they're posting on content all the time, and they're direct messaging people and responding to their comments and so on social media. But how do you take that, and you've done it successfully, but how do you take that from a conversation and content and take that lead, that prospecting? I know you called it a warm call earlier. How do you take that? What have you done to help you get paid next? In other words, get them to be a client. What have you done that's been successful along the way?
I think it's really important to have a compelling offer, right? Like, do you solve a problem that they actually have, and are you presenting the value proposition in a way that they're going to take action, right? So it's speaking to their emotions and making sure, like, is this something that resonates? Do they feel good about it? And then touch on any sort of, if there's any hesitancy, walk through that kind of thing. But like your offer has to be solid, right? In order for that, I think people have either too many offers, or the offer's not clear, or it's not obvious how they're going to get the return on investment for this. And so walking through all that's just really important, that it's very clear how they're going to, work with you and then see the ROI from it as well.
Are there signs? Are there signs they're ready to buy?
I think with looking at content creation and being present on there, the more, there's intent, right? So they're liking your post. Maybe they're not commenting on it yet, but they're liking it. Like I have, from the last couple of weeks, I've had several conversations where like they're thinking about it, let's say. And so I'm seeing them, though, every day they're liking my post. They're starting to comment on it. And so those types of things, it's like, okay, because they were super cold. They were, again, second degree connections. They hadn't seen me before. So they're getting to know me right now. And so I'm starting to see this. I'm engaging with their stuff. So they're getting familiar. I didn't just blow them off. It wasn't like, okay, it takes time. In sales, it's like 7 touches for people to say yes sometimes. And so, and that's how it is with emails or whatever it is. In this case, we have to figure out what are those little nuggets, those breadcrumbs they're leaving for us that's showing some sort of intent. And so it's really that, those types of engagement and activity that you're seeing on the posts. I'd say it's a huge area. And then checking in, seeing how's it going, what have they tried? If they didn't move forward with you, if they're working on stuff, like, hey, hi, how's it going? Is there anything I can help you with, right? Like actually be genuine about this, right? And being a supportive person to them. And eventually, again, that's a longer game, but obviously initially you want to really just have that solid offer. I think once you nail that offer down and it eliminates any sort of fears that they have about it, it makes it much easier to sell it.
Do you find this
now I'm noticing that there's a little more hesitancy these days, just with everything that's going on, the uncertainty. I feel like there's a little bit more caution that's being taken, whereas in the last few years more people are jumping on, especially in the coaching space. I feel like there's a lot, like people have been burned. So I talked to someone the other day who's been burned by like 4 marketing agencies. Poor thing. I'm like, oh, I get it. Like I don't want to be that person at all. I'm not. Like I'm so confident in this. So like we'll take our time here. Don't worry.
So what have you done different there? Like you've heard from the marketing agencies. What kind of different approach do you take to that?
To the sales cycle, or just how my
well, someone said they've been burnt from some marketing agencies.
Yeah.
So what's kind of your approach in having that conversation with people?
Yeah, well, social proof, that's a huge part. So I can talk to the wins that my clients have had, like legit real wins, that it's not me just, it's because, yes, I'm a great example of what looks good on what I'm trying to teach you, because I practice what I preach, and I'm not just telling you to do something and I don't do it myself. Like I live and breathe what I teach my clients, but I can also share what my clients have won as well. And so I think that's a huge part. That's better than anything I can say, right? So I think that's really important for sure. Mm-hmm.
So is that like having the testimonials and case studies and things like that?
Yeah. And I think, the approach that I have as well, it is very hands-on. Like I at some point, maybe I'll do group coaching. I'm just not there yet, but I really want to make sure that I'm delivering the best quality for my clients right now and what I have to offer. And so I am very hands-on with it. It's, I don't just, it was a done with you program, but now I'm even done for you in some areas, just because I want you to get past the hard part so we can focus on the selling part where the money comes in. And so I'm like, okay, let me just do this part for you, and then you can focus on having conversations. Because again, I can't do that part for them. So it's just being very, back to what Scotty was saying, just genuine about it. And I think people see that very clearly with how I show up on LinkedIn as well. And being true about this all the time, it resonates really well. And because of that, my sales cycle with prospects, it can be really quickly, right? I talked to someone yesterday and she signed with me today. And it's because someone referred her, and then she got on the call with me, and then I saw after she liked a couple of my posts, and then she emailed me back and said, let's do it. It's amazing how well it all works when you keep it doing it and you're consistent with it, and I don't know, the magic of LinkedIn.
Well, that's an awesome result because that's converting a lead fast. That's a
Yeah, exactly.
it's a great example.
Mm.
What's your would you have an idea of what your longest lead through to conversion is?
From when I first talked to them to
Yeah.
when they signed with me.
So the leads come through LinkedIn.
Well, I had somebody that was like 8 months. He saw LinkedIn Live I did last year. Also, again, a second degree connect, because LinkedIn Lives are funny like that. They get in front of the randomest people. And so he booked a call with me and wasn't too sure, but was interested, right? And then just totally disappeared. And then 8 months later, he popped back up in my email. I was like, hey, I'm ready to start. I'm like, what? Who are you? Well, that was kind of fun. And so, again, super random because there was no connection or referrals or anything. We have no mutual connects either. Basically, it was just the most random thing. So 8 months. But then there's people that I met back when I met Scotty when I was at Forbes Books, in a totally different industry. Then they've started working with me now. So I met them at another point, but now it's relevant to be working with me now. So I think some of these have been 3, 4 years, 8 years. The guy today who I met at the 3D printing company who's looking to start his business now. That might be one of the longer ones, right?
And that raises the important point about relationships and keeping connected with people and having those continually having those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're coming. Yeah, sorry, Scotty.
I like the story, Natasha, on a couple of things. So I wrote down 5 things when you first started. You were doing smile and dial right in the beginning, and learning and taking all the punches, and your strike rate was probably pretty low back then. But you built up something else, and then you learned, most importantly, how to make warm calls, how to actually convert the hardness of cold calls into warm calls, because cold calling sucks, right? There's a better way. Warm calls.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, they're brutal, right? But anyway, and then the magic to my ears was that when you said you created a system, which is what you now teach and sell by the sounds of it. You now teach and sell a duplicatable system that people can follow, and it should work more often than not, which is great. And then to stay informed, you do all the Google alerts. So that way you keep on top of the people, and when there's ever a genuine opportunity to genuinely connect or reconnect, you can. And then to validate everything that you're doing, you also then use the social proofing through social media. So as a system, those five steps or journey that you went on to grow your knowledge, I thought was a really, really good story. And I've seen you go through the jobs and the iterations to where you are today, right? I think when we first had our conversation, I was sitting on the beach, I think in 2019, wasn't I?
Yeah.
You're doing this call and you're in America, I'm in Australia, I'm on the beach under the umbrella going, how you going, Natasha?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Too funny. I do, yeah. And I appreciate you saying this about the systems, because I, throughout all of that, didn't realize I was building a system. It only hit me like a few months ago that I was like, oh shit, this is my system. Like, I've got it. And now I'd like been able to create the whole thing, and did a workshop in front of 150 people last week and presenting the system. And it was so cool because I'm like, I did it.
I love the word system, systematize your business is what I say. And systematize is not a real word, but anyway, systematize everything, So you talked about your cycle, right? So there's the cycle I teach people in business. It just happens to be 19, right? But lead generation, and that's the cycle. That's the business and sales cycle. You can teach people a system, not just a bit of what I think or what might be, or you can actually teach people a system they can work through. And so I love the word system. I love the fact you've introduced that into your vocabulary. Oh, and it could be blueprint. It could be a process or a procedure. I don't mind, right? System could be 100 other words, but the fact you've actually used the word system is well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Would you say, Scotty, that call under the umbrella, was that a hot call?
Well,
it was the funny. I got burned on that one. You kind of laughed at me. I think I was trying to sell him on publishing with us, and it didn't go well. But we connected afterwards, obviously.
Well, it was sort of a
You're
warm
like, yeah,
lead.
no, I'm already doing this. Why would I work with you?
It was a referral from someone else to Natasha who was working at Forbes
That's
Books.
right.
And I was only half interested. So it was like, oh, look, I'll take the call because I'll do the right thing, but I'm actually at the beach. So I'm not leaving the beach. I'll just take the call on the beach. And so Natasha had to give me a sales pitch while I was sitting on the beach. And she did a really good job. She actually did a really, really good job. We didn't get a sale out of that though, did you?
No, thank goodness. So I'm glad we didn't. You did it the right way.
Yeah, but look at the relationship you've got now.
I learned a lot out of that
Yeah.
call, and that was a really good call, and I was very interested. But I did establish over not that on that call, but it established over time that I may as well just write my own books and do my own thing because there's not that much money in books. I may as well just. So far, I've spent this much money on publishing books, and everything's been a return, and I've really enjoyed the journey. But I do like the whole principle of what Forbes did, and I can totally understand why someone at a stage of their life would do a Forbes publishing journey. Totally got it. I thought that makes perfect sense. 5 years ago, I might have done it, but the stage I was in, it wasn't for me. But what I did like was, and this is your background though, was you didn't prejudge. You stayed positive, and that lead you kept on in a conversation with and kept it warm and ongoing. The fact you didn't close it doesn't matter. It's that principle of what you did then, you learned before that, and you're still applying today. So it's not just lead generation. It's so what? I've got a lead. So what? You've learned how to maximize on that conversation, have an offering, and get paid. So now we're talking, that's a business. So 10 points. It's been such a good experience watching your journey grow and change. And now you've taken that leap of faith and you've got a business on your own. And now you're getting paid exactly what you're worth. So I love the story.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun to have you a part of this journey as well, because I read your books. I was like, I mean, this is before I'd never even imagined I'd start my own business. And I think you even said to me, like, why are you working for them? You know?
That'd be something I do. What are you doing there? You're really good at this stuff. You should be making your own money. Yeah. But, hey, working for someone else, there's nothing wrong with working for someone else. But, if you really want to get paid what you're worth, start your own business. And then there is actually no limit to how much money you can make, just how much time you can put in.
So true.
So it's very good. So sorry to change the subject, Andrew. Back to you.
No, it's all good. It's fine. It's fine. This is what it's all about. Joe, did you have a question?
No, I pressed the wrong button before.
Oh, okay.
I meant to do a reaction and I put my hand up instead. You know what I'm like with a computer.
Yeah, you're excellent. You're always posting on social media.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm any good on the computer. It takes me forever to get them ready.
And welcome everyone, by the way. So just quickly around the room, Raywin's from up in Brisbane. She runs a business networking, what do you want to call it, events up there. She has these regular sessions. I'm actually speaking at it in May. She does a really good job up there. She also I've been interviewed by Raywin, 4 years ago on a podcast and so on. Joe runs it used to be called Australian Coffee Lovers. What's it called now?
Northern Beaches and Beyond.
And Beyond, another networking event down in Northern Sydney and so on. Been doing that for years and years. Tracy Kitching, she's from down south in Australia, another Australian. She's actually an AI expert, hence the good advice we got earlier about AI. And I don't know, I've not met, is it Chinmay? I haven't met Chinmay before. So welcome to the session as a live session. It's good to have you here, and you get a chance to ask the question like you did. Andrew is the System 1357 certified coach out of Sydney at the moment. And so he's been doing a great job at picking up and doing interviews. And Natasha, we know who you are, but I guess we've got to wrap up because it's been nearly an hour. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming along, and I'll pass over to Andrew. But yeah, thanks Natasha very much for coming along today and sharing your expertise.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for putting them on, Scotty. They're just so informative, and they jog things in your mind too, and they make you remember that you've forgotten to do things quite often as well. So yeah, really appreciate your hours that you put in for us.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks everyone for joining today. That is how to turn your leads into sales. And thank you, Natasha, for joining us today. Hopefully it's not too late for you over in North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? South Carolina?
South Carolina. Yeah.
South Carolina. Hopefully it's not too
Mhm.
late for you to join us there tonight.
No, we're good. This is about the time I put the baby to bed, so I'll be soon after him.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If you want to know more, you can reach out to either Scotty, myself, or Natasha. And we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you at the next one.